What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 230, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we're bringing you a special pre-recorded episode. We are not live. That's because we're going to be talking about Doom: The Dark Ages. We also have some news about Gears of War going to PlayStation, and GTA 6 has screwed me over. Get to all that and more. Before we get to it, got to introduce my co-host, hanging out with me every single week, JamPackSam. How are you, my friend?
What's up, man? I am tired. It has been a week. I'm in a couple of different Discords, and every time there's big gaming news, I'm like, it's like they wait until the people with 9-to-5s are like getting settled in at work. You've got your cup of coffee, and it's like, oh, hey, GTA trailer 2, or I don't know, Gears of War coming to PlayStation, like back to back, and I'm like, are you kidding me, right? But so let's create an additional work. I also have been playing Doom: The Dark Ages. I have rolled credits on it. It is done for like the most part. I'm going back to do more stuff. But yeah, tired but good. Very pleasurable week.
Yeah, it's been funny because I'll be at work. I'll go like, oh, I'm gonna go take a little walk, just see what's going on the interwebs. I see Gears of War coming to PlayStation, GTA 6 delayed. I'm like, well, I better send these over to Sam so he knows what he's got to get doing.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like I always try to, because I make the videos that go out. I make the daily video normally from like 4 to 8 a.m. Like that's my content time. And so then I get to work at 9 and it's like, oh, okay, cool. So if I was just an hour behind, I would have been fine. But no, I've got to go home and work even more. So
I think you got to change your work schedule. I think like 10 to 6 or something.
I think I need to just quit my job. I think I just need to quit my job and then, make so little money creating short form content.
Yeah, but won't it be worth it though? Because the news will break and you'll be there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll be worth the hundreds of dollars I make a year.
He's like, I'm picturing him making shorts out of a cardboard box on the side of the street. Like,
quite frankly, yeah.
GTA 6 just got delayed again. Well, we're also joined by a special guest who hit me up and said, "Hey, I'm also playing Doom: The Dark Ages. You want me to come on?" I'm like, "Absolutely." We've been having you on more and more recently. IGN's keeping you busy with some big games. I'm talking, of course, Sam Heaney from No Limits, our PlayStation podcast, and IGN does the guides over there. How are you, Sam?
I too am a very tired man. It's been, I think, over 4.5 months since I've had a day off, so it's pretty wild. But we've been playing some good games, so that offsets everything. That makes everything better, right? Nothing bad is going on. Ignore everything. Blinders.
Nothing
the world
bad
is
going
fine.
on. Yeah, exactly. It's hilarious because people don't know what you and I were talking about even before JamPackSam here joined. We were like, India's going to war with Pakistan, huh? Like,
see, I am the most tuned out
should.
person. I'm like, oh, okay, that's yeah, because whenever you asked me the question when I came on, I was like, what? Nothing surprises me at this point. Any headline is a viable headline. It could be The Onion, it could be the New York Times. I have no idea. I'm just playing Doom. That's all I got.
Honestly, it's a better life for you. I would say I've blocked most the actual news sites because I'm like, I can't live this life.
I just can't do it anymore.
I just got to exist. But why don't we get into the show proper? Because I want to talk all about Doom: The Dark Ages. So if you are new here, this is Project XTalk. We are normally live every Thursday on youtube.com/Save the Game Media. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us a 5-star review. It does help us in those algorithms. If you want to support us further, get early audio access to Save the Game Media content, except when there's an embargo, and exclusive bonus content, head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current supporters. So thank you to Todd Oxtra, Alpaca Tom, Rick Davis, Silkenet, Lee Navarro, David Harp, David Hotright, Lillian, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Marcus O'Neill, Brendan Myers, aka the Winter Gamer, Nikolai at Night, Fabulous Brianna, and Brianna's mom. And shout out Gothic Hello Kitty, still on that free trial. That should be up soon. So they might be joining the Patreon. Hopefully they like the content, but you can go over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media, support us there if you want to. Guys, normally we start with what you've been playing. I'm gonna, I don't think you guys have been playing anything else. So we might just go to story number 1, because this might sound like the most boomer thing I'm ever about to say. And I'm not a boomer, I'm a millennial. My left hand has been throbbing with pain all week that I have not played video games because it just
that sucks.
to play it just hurts to hold a controller. So I've been like going outside and like watching TV. Yeah, horrible news. It's starting to feel better, so it should be good to get back into that. Got to do some hand stretches, but you guys have been playing Doom: The Dark Ages, so why don't we jump into that? I'm going to start with JamPackSam. I want to know how far are you into it? I think you already said you rolled credits, but how long did it take you, and what are your current overall thoughts?
Yeah, so I want to preface this by saying the way that I always play Doom games is that I do one like natural flow playthrough where like if I find stuff, I find stuff. If I don't, I don't. I'm just kind of like going through the game and then I roll credits and then I'll go back, use the works of potentially one other Sam for the show, and then I'll like do some of the collectible stuff if I can't find stuff along the way, and then I'll kind of like chunk along through there and then get to the DLC eventually. So I have rolled credits on my natural flow playthrough where I've gotten through the campaign. I've done some of the side stuff of like collectibles. I get the vibe of it. And I really enjoy the game. I do have like a caveat with that, which we can get into at any point. But yeah, I really like the game. I think that it's a very good Doom game, and I think that it stands as an example of like its own identity alongside the previous two games that have made this new modern Doom trilogy. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, I'm really curious to explore the caveat you mentioned there and get some comparisons between the other ones. How long did it take you to roll credits? You know?
So we don't have the stats up. I played through Xbox, so I don't know specifically. I'm estimating 10 to 12 hours to like just get through the campaign. Yeah, it is not a long game, especially if you're just kind of like going from waypoint to waypoint. But I'm sure you can extend that if you're really collecting everything. You know, I estimated in my review that should go live by the time this goes up, that it probably would be like 35 to 40 hours to get everything. If you're not using a guide to go directly from thing to thing, that's just like my gut feeling. But I'm sure other Sam could probably tell me otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's throw it over to Sam Heaney here. Sam, how far are you in the game? How long have you played it for? And what are your current thoughts about Doom: The Dark Ages?
Yeah. I have not rolled credits. I am on chapter 21 of 22, so I'm nearly finished. And I think my playtime is 32 hours currently.
Jesus.
Now, caveat that, as I always do, that is occasionally pausing, note taking, grabbing screenshots, maybe reloading a little bit just to check things out. But that's roughly indicative. I'd say maybe 30 hours. And I've 100%ed every chapter up to this point. So I've got everything. So very, very nearly like 100% done with it. And I am in line with Sam in the sense that I think the way I describe it very much is that it's got its own identity alongside the other two Doom games for sure. I would say for me, this is like the Goldilocks of the trilogy, where Doom 2016, very refined, very simplistic, just run and gun, bit slow. Doom Eternal, they enhanced it, made it more complex, a little bit too fast. Doom: The Dark Ages, I think, strikes the most even balance that we've seen thus far. And I think that it is almost always the better for it. But again, I think I do have a couple of caveats, same as Sam, that wouldn't sway me from recommending the game by any means, but there are a few pain points, I think.
Okay. So it's good to know overall you guys are enjoying it, like the game, recommend it. I want to get into the more meat and potatoes of it. As someone that tried Doom 2016, didn't click with that game, loved Doom Eternal because of the more fast-paced approach, the verticality, the high octane movement. Where do you think someone along in my camp will fall with this game?
That's an interesting question. I mean, it is by all means not the absolute overwhelming Eternal like gameplay that we got from the last time, because I loved Eternal, but it was very much like I think I already said it, but it's like overwhelming at points to where the colors are flashing, you're running and gunning. If you slow down, you're going to die. Like if you stand in one spot, you're just going to get overwhelmed. And so I think that if you're going in expecting that and looking for that, the Dark Ages is not going to get that. I do think that Sam Heaney described it well, and that it is the slow nature of Doom 2016, but with some of the better elements of Eternal that made it feel like a more engaging first-person shooter. So it's something that I think you would probably like, but if you are going in for that, like just foot to the floor, gas pedal all the way to 100, you're not going to get that level of speed and of action. But the way that it kind of like carves out a hole for itself makes it, I think, a better and more aligned modern boomer shooter, if I had to describe it in that way, where fans of original Doom gameplay are going to feel more at home in the Dark Ages than they would picking up Eternal after not having played the series for a very long time.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. I wanted to, Sam, you would agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's not a pain point for me, because I did feel that Eternal was too fast, or too overwhelming, as Sam said. But I think that there are going to be some people who, if they didn't vibe with 2016 but liked Eternal specifically for those enhancements in speed, I think there will be a fair number of people that might view Dark Ages as a bit of a regression, because it's pulling back on a lot of that crazy over the top action. There's still stuff you can do in here, but you're not, again, as Sam said, you're not going to reach the crazy levels that you did in Eternal, which is like this game stands on its own because of that, but it also feels, if you love Eternal, maybe a bit inferior. I don't know.
And then I would also say, like, the vertical elements, like you were mentioning, like all of the acrobatics that came with Eternal, where you're slinging around on these poles that are embedded in the walls. And
like
it really is like a Spider-Man Doom game, effectively, at some point.
Yeah,
all of that
from
is gone.
Point.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of that is gone. There are like some slight vertical elements of it, but it's mainly just like very light parkouring, like the lightest touch of parkour where you sling a shield up and then kind of like jump over to a ledge. It is nothing intense. So all of that, I would say the majority of the platforming element that made Doom Eternal kind of stand out and have that unique identity has been removed entirely.
Interesting. Okay, that I'm still in on the game. I'm still gonna give it a try, especially because it is in Game Pass, right? That does give me a little apprehension of maybe I won't click with it, because those were things I did like about the Doom. Like, it felt like Doom was evolving, because I've never really clicked with the older Doom games. I got frustrated playing them. I'm like, I don't know where to go. So shout out guides teams, right? I'm like, oh, there's a wall over here I gotta blow up. Who would have ever known that? But okay, let's talk about the gameplay loop, though. Like, so Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, very different in terms of their gameplay loop. But like Doom Eternal, you do a mission, go back to a hub area, upgrade all your stuff in there. You got different points to check out on the ship, right? And that didn't really exist in Doom 2016. That was more just straightforward. How is it in Doom the Dark Ages? Does that hub area return? Is it more traditional Doom? Is it still just selecting missions, or is it just a continuous, like, hey, once you start, you're going on this campaign?
So
You can
the
go.
way, yeah, the way that it's kind of split up is there is no longer a hub world, but you do have altars that are scattered throughout each chapter of the campaign, and so they're effectively the same idea, where you'll gather gold, rubies, and wraith stones along the way, and then upgrade your gear. So you can kind of spec into the way that you find yourself playing and kind of level up different things over time. And it does have the same, or I would say a similar level of depth to what Eternal had, where you can change one shotgun ability to another one. And so you've got the tiered system, but then you can kind of tweak those in between. So really, depending on the weapon, if it's more of one of the mainstream weapons, you can unlock all of the abilities and then fine tune them a little bit more. Then on top of that, you've got different melee weapons, you've got different runes for your shield. So it kind of changes up the flow of the gameplay, even though it keeps everything centralized to the same way, or the same type of weapon. Like, you get the loadout and just kind of expand it over time. But the other thing I'll say about the gameplay loop, and this is like something that I said with Eternal, and that's kind of stuck with me, is that it has kind of nailed this Guitar Hero flow with their gunplay of, as you get onboarded through the tutorials, you match enemies or specific enemy characteristics with some of the weapons. So it's the same thing that you kind of got with Eternal, where if you see blue energy shields, that's a pulse weapon. You need to do that, they'll explode. If you see a glowing red shield, you'll sling your shield at it, those explode and take out a whole wave of enemies. And it just kind of like color codes or enemy codes the way that your gunplay needs to flow to maximize the way that the game is kind of meant to be played. Not to say that you can't just go and like totally 100% the game with a rocket launcher, but they designed it intentionally to push you to try different weapons along the way. So that's kind of the gameplay flow. You know, the more you unlock, the better it feels. I think the game is really at its best probably 80% of the way through, when you've really gotten your full artillery, and then you just go forth and do what you will with it and kind of take on the enemies how you best see fit. So that's the gameplay loop as far as I see it.
Okay. Sam, you got anything to add to that?
I guess it's an element of gameplay, but Kev, you know, you've been on the Expedition 33 train, as of late, and you've been learning to parry, right?
Oh God, what are you about to tell me?
I didn't know where we wanted to get into the parrying. I figured there would be a separate question with the shield saw.
Oh, I was gonna ask how awesome the shield was, but you're bringing up parrying, so I mean, we could jump into it.
Get into it.
Well, I think the shield saw is like, part of my heart hurts that there isn't just a direct chainsaw in the game. You know, that feels like a quintessential Doom thing, but the shield saw, in terms of how they use it for platforming, you know, Sam said you can throw it at specific points and sort of launch yourself up high. You can obviously throw it at enemies to shatter shields or cut lesser enemies in half, or you can use it to block enemies' incoming projectiles. You can charge them and sort of shatter them. It's good. It's fun. It's satisfying. It sounds, you know, meaty and weighty. But a lot of this game is parrying
in a first-person shooter.
Yeah. So you may have seen in like some of the trailers or gameplay footage, a lot of enemies now fire projectiles at you. Some of them are like orange, and then there are some that are green. And the green ones, we don't have to technically, but if you really want to do the best you can in an encounter, you're going to want to parry those, and then they will fly back towards the enemy and deal damage and stun them and things like that. When you get to some of the tougher demons, if you aren't parrying them and getting up close and then parrying all of their melee attacks, you are going to die. So, you know, to be clear, nowhere near as difficult as a Sekiro or even an Expedition 33.
Okay.
In terms of parrying timing, like, it's very forgiving.
Huge window.
But you do have to do a lot of parrying, and I think that some may argue that it breaks up the gameplay loop enough during the encounters that it can become a little bit frustrating, that you kind of have to do it to get out alive. Because, you know, as much as you don't have the speed of Eternal, the amount of enemies that they fling at you and the amount of projectiles that those enemies are flinging at you, especially in the later parts of the game, you're going to go down very quickly if you aren't spamming that shield parry. So, you know, pros and cons, I think, for the shield.
Yeah, I see the shield. You know, I totally agree 100%. The way that I described it in my review is like, the shield is the game. Like, that is the Dark Ages. Like, that is the whole point of picking up this game over 2016 or Eternal. That is the differentiating factor. And going back to my potentially ill-placed Guitar Hero analogy, I see the parrying almost as like whenever you hit the guitar up. You know what I mean? Whenever you like go to a power. Yeah, whenever you go to star power and you like do the little thing. Because you'll be, you know, I love the super shotgun. Like, I barrel stuffed my way through the last half of this game where I'm just going right up to some dude's gut and just like double barreling it right in there. It's like I'm doing that. I'm firing rockets. I've got, you know, my assault rifle equivalent. I'm going and doing that. And then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see green. Then I parry. That shoots back that way. So it's like, once you hit the flow of it, of like shotgun, rocket, parry, Yeah, all these other things. You've got chain shot, which is a giant cannonball on a chain that you can shoot at people. Very cool. Punisher, or the pulverizer, which is the skull chipping gun where you put skulls in it and just shoots out bits of skulls. So you've got like all of these cool weapons, and then the parrying mixed in there. I think it complements it well. But as we all know, I love parrying, like a really good, simple parrying system. That's why I like Wolong. It's a big reason why I like Doom the Dark Ages, is because I do love parrying. And so I never felt it was overwhelming. But I do think that with any Doom game or any of these first person shooters, there can be a certain level of repetition that you get late in game where you're like, okay, I have now mastered the flow of this. And I was playing on the normal difficulty. I now fully believe that I could go back through, do a new playthrough in whatever the nightmare difficulty is, the next level up, the hard one. And I think that it would be fine. Or maybe it's Hurt Me Plenty is the next one. I forget whatever the next one is up from normal. They have the dumb names, but I like the dumb names. But yeah, so I like the parrying. It is very parry heavy. Like you see that in the first tutorial of the game, and then it just continues to build from there. But the saw is the star of the show, and that's a big part of that saw experience.
So the parrying doesn't put me off, because as you said, Expedition 33 and games like that, like if the window's big enough, I'm fine. But also, like, I remember them making a big deal about accessibility options for the Dark Ages and like increasing speed and stuff. Like, I feel like if I can't nail it, I can tweak it enough that it'll still be completely playable for me. So that's it's not a deal breaker at all. Like that, I'm still looking forward to throwing my shield, cutting people in half, and that skull gun that shoots shards. That's like, that might be the coolest weapon I've seen in the trailer so far. I want to touch. Have we talked about your caveat yet, Sam? I don't want to go too long without that, because I do want to know like what your big caveat was.
We haven't talked about mine. So my caveat is that the glory kills are very few and far between.
I was gonna just bring up glory kills, so that's good. Yeah. Good transition there.
And so that was something that I remember people called out whenever the first trailer came out. They said there's not a lot of glory kills, and to be clear, they are still in the game technically. Like you could put a big asterisk beside it. So the way that they work is that if you have an enemy staggered and you're going in for the finisher, if you jump above the enemy, then hit the finisher, then it triggers the glory kill. From what I've seen, there is only one type of glory kill for each enemy, and they only trigger on what I see as certain enemies. So it's not like Doom 2016 where like you get anything glowing blue and you just rip them apart, and there's a wide variety there. It is very much so like you have to intentionally go in, clear out this entire wave of enemies, and then say, I want to finish with a cherry on top, go up and see the like 6 saw animation where you're getting them cut in half. For me, I was really disappointed by that in the first 2 hours of the game, because I'm like, this is Doom. It's all about ripping and tearing. And then I keep going back to throughout the entire marketing thing. They've repeated time and time again, this is stand and fight. This isn't rip and tear anymore. This is stand and fight. And so I'm like, oh, that wasn't just like a marketing spiel. That was them telling you, like, you literally don't rip and tear that much in this game. This is really all about the shield where you block and parry and you stand and you fight. Like, that's kind of what the game is. So the more that I thought about it, the more that I'm like, I think that if you added more glory kills, the Doom fan in me would want it more. But also I think that having fewer of them still included to give that flourish of a Doom game, but not to the point that it's like adding more chaos into the mix of the gameplay loop that they have here. I think that it's made it something that has a unique identity that makes it stand out more from 2016 and Eternal to have fewer glory kills, but focus more on the shield gameplay. So I think that at the end, it becomes a more unique product. But I do think it's going to be a complaint that you see a lot of the more surface level Doom fans out there that are looking for that kind of experience have within the first couple of hours.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns after watching the trailers, where I'm like, it kind of looks simplistic for the glory kills, what they were talking about. And I have images of like grabbing people's eyes and ripping them out of their head, right? And like stuff along those lines. And I was like, is that not in the game? And it sounds like that's not the case here anymore. Does it still give you the benefits of a glow, like when it bursts out with like health and armor and stuff, all that? Okay. So
not to
ultimately,
the not to the Borderlands level of like a fountain of colors that are coming out of it, but you still get what you need to continue on.
Okay, so like as long as it's functionally the same, like I guess I can live without the cool visuals. I do wonder like why they took did they get feedback that people got sick of seeing the animations? Because I remember in Eternal going from like enemy to enemy, ripping them, and like that was so enjoyable for me.
Yeah, it's just it's very interesting. And Sam, I would love your thoughts on the lack of glory kills, and I know you had caveats as well. But yeah, you are not going to get the like you got 5 enemies staggered in a row, and you're just going from each getting a different animation. It is very much so. Like if you have 2 of the same enemy staggered, you are getting 2 of the same exact kill, and then everything else is just like boot, they fly off in the distance and a colorful pack of health and armor drops, or punch and they go flying off. So it's definitely, it is much more simplistic in that way. I don't think it takes away from, like you said earlier, recommending the game, but it does feel like a step back in that way from Eternal in terms of the glory and the gory of the game.
Yeah, it's weird. It almost feels like the omission of glory kills would have made more sense for Eternal, because inherently they partially break up the speed that Eternal was going for. And like they made them faster in Eternal, no doubt, but it would make more sense for, especially with how like Sam said, sort of stand and fight this game is. How I think id themselves said in Eternal you're a race car, and in this you're a tank. And it sort of would make sense that when you're more brutal, grounded, heavy, swinging maces and flails around, that you would actually want some real, brutal, gory stuff. I don't know why, because it's not like having glory kills as they currently existed would have slowed down the gameplay, because the gameplay is already slowed compared to Eternal. So yeah, I'd be super interested in knowing what the logic was, whether it was to feel less sort of rote and repetitive, like how many interesting glory kills can you come up with. Maybe they didn't want to have you killing imps the same way for a 3rd game in a row. I don't know. Maybe they did want to remove it, even if it is stripping a feature away, to again create a differentiating factor and maybe make you rely less or be less incentivized to go for a glory kill, and maybe use more of your arsenal, or throw your shield instead, engage with the newer mechanics, maybe less so than relying on the old reliables. But yeah, I'm not sure really. It seems a strange omission, but as Sam sort of alluded to, it was something I noticed very prominently for the first few hours, and then I kind of just forgot about it, which is a shame. But I think it's also a positive for the game that the game was strong enough that it made me forget about the fact that there weren't glory kills. So
yeah,
awesome.
I would agree that. I also think that it might feel more prominent because when you think back to Eternal, you had the flamethrower on your back with Y, and then you had the chainsaw with X, and then you also had the melee glory kills. So I think those, like, I always bucket those together in my mind, where it's like they all kind of had that glory kill feel to it. And maybe if I were to go back and play again and try to ignore those mechanics for a little while and just focus on the melee, maybe there weren't as many of those as I remember there being. But I do think, to your point though, the shield saw is so cool. Like, why aren't there 5 animations where one is chopping off all the limbs and then the head, one is cutting them in half, one is chopping off their legs and like crushing their head? Like, there are so many cool things you could do with it. As a yeah, like as a mechanic, there are so many cool things you could do. And it just feels like some of that was left on the table for the sake of a simple or a simpler gameplay loop, which, to your point, I would love to hear what they have to say about that. But yeah, it's still great. Still a very fun game.
All right. Sam Heaney, have we touched on your caveats, or you want to bring those up? Because I got 2 areas I want to touch on still, but I want you to get your bars off here.
Maybe I'll hit one of them.
All right.
I'm going to bring up both the dragon and the mech.
Okay.
I not sure I'm in love with either of them, to be honest. Particularly the mech. I think the dragon has interesting implementations, or more interesting implementations, I should say. The mech to me reads as, and it have kind of alluded to this, where they want to let you play out the power fantasy. You've seen them in the prior Doom games, and now you get to pilot one. I just don't know that it lives up to those kind of power fantasy ideals. Again, without sort of spoiling anything, they're used comparatively quite sparingly throughout the campaign thus far. And therefore, any detractions I have with them don't really diminish my enjoyment of the game overall. But the mech in particular is very linear levels, very basic gameplay, no unique mechanics really. And you're fighting one enemy. And it none of it overstays its welcome, which is, I think, the best thing about it. But it is one of the underwhelming things where they sort of built up the mech to be this super cool thing, and I just don't know that they land with that personally. And then the dragon is better, but I think that it doesn't feel great to control, in my opinion. It's quite hard to sort of finesse and fine tune movements, and so this is going to be really specific. Sam will know what I mean. And this is very minute, so it is nitpicking. Please take that into account. During the dragon levels, you're flying around and you will occasionally encounter these ships that you have to pursue. They account for some like challenges you have to complete, things like that. They don't engage with you. They aren't an actual hostile enemy. They won't shoot back. There's nothing for you to dodge. And when you're pursuing them, you can't lock on. So you're having to fly at high speed, shooting at them before they disappear to get the reward. And you can't lock on, and you're going through these really narrow passages a lot of the time. And it feels very strange design decision to allow you to lock on to other targets when you're flying around with a dragon, but not those, where that's really the only chase sequences that they provide, where a lock on would be needed, in my opinion. So yeah, I think both the dragon and the mech didn't quite work for me, unfortunately.
That's really interesting. I feel like I would agree with you. The dragon is stronger than the mech in terms of gameplay. I think that I agree with you as well with the finessing and like the accuracy of whenever you're flying the dragon, it can be difficult. I do like that. Again, dodging or parrying, whatever, I kind of put them in the same bucket. They are still central to both of these kind of like tangential experiences as well. And I found that really interesting because they implement them in very different ways. The way that I described the mechs in my review was rock'em sock'em mechs, like where it's just very much so like you're just like, it's just going back and forth, and then you'll build up to an ult or the equivalent of an ult, a super ability, whatever you want to call it. I was talking to Luke about these earlier this morning from Xbox Expansion Pass. And so we were talking about it. And I think that they, to Sam Heaney's point, they are not overstaying their welcome. They are literally a combination, I think, basically 4 levels out of the 4 chapters of the campaigns. And the dragons are partial to those chapters as well. Like you still have shooting parts, then you land and do something, then you get back on your dragon and fly away. And there's a cool transition mixed in there as well. But they're just there to split up the FPS gameplay, and I think that it does what it needs to do, and it suffices at that point. I will say that while I enjoyed the mech fighting for its simplicity, I do think that the sense of scale just leaves a lot to be desired. Like the landscapes aren't fleshed out to the point that it really feels like you're a giant mech. It really feels like it's almost like a Hypercharge Unboxed, where you feel like an action figure. Like that's kind of the way that it and controls. I don't think that I didn't think about that in the moment. I kind of knew what it was trying to do, and I just let it do what it would. But at the same time, yeah, I do think there's more that could have been done. And then I look at that also in the context of the interviews where they said we had to choose between doing a multiplayer mode and adding these dragon and mech levels. And I still think that was the right choice because I think without a doubt in the current multiplayer landscape, there is no purpose in having
Agreed.
a multiplayer mode. You'd be better off making a Crash Bandicoot party game. But
Oh,
Damn.
let's go. Team Rumble 2, baby.
I have to give him the chance to tap the poster because no one looked at it otherwise. But there's no point in making a Doom multiplayer game whenever you've got Fortnite dominating everything with this Star Wars thing, right? So I think that was still the right choice. However, I then question, like, did you just like put nothing into the multiplayer modes for the past two games? Because these do not feel like substantial, huge additions from a novice's point of view. The level of depth for these kind of side quest chapters, if you will, is not anything to gawk at, but they suffice. They are fun. They split it up well. I'm not complaining, just kind of observing the way that I perceive these.
Sure.
That's, to be fair, that's kind of what I expected from, like, nothing you're saying surprises. Like Rock'em Sock'em Mech is exactly how I expected it to be. So that's completely, I think that's fine. I think if people had seen the marketing, they would have had an idea of what to expect. I don't think anybody expected this. We're gonna get a mech and it's gonna be like a Megazord from Power Rangers, all these crazy, you know. Okay. So I want to touch on two more things. First, why don't we go to technical issues if you had any? How does the game run? What'd you play on? Sam, you said you were playing on, or JamPackSam Xbox.
Yep.
And Sam Heaney, did you play on PS5?
I did.
Okay. Beautiful, good. Any issues going on here?
Faultless.
Yeah, no, it runs very well. I haven't seen anything that looks any different than the trailers.
Great.
Plays great, no complaints.
We can get through that quick. Last touching point then, the story. Because they were kind of making it seem like story was going to be a bigger deal in this game compared to the previous two Doom entries, where the story existed. Could I tell you what the story of Doom Eternal is? Not really, no. Is it more of the same where it's in the background periphery, or do they really put an emphasis on it? JamPackSam, I'll start with you.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think makes it stand out from the previous two, in that I think a lot of the production budget went into very well done cutscenes. Not to the point of, like, you know, if you play Call of Duty, the level of cutscenes that you get from these, where it's like you're watching Black Hawk Down, where it's very, very, very high quality. But for id, way more than I expected. Like the level of detail in the voice acting and the character models and the textures and things like that. Like, it is very, very well done. And I think that it adds an additional layer of depth to not only the story, but also to the character of the Slayer. Like you can kind of understand the way he reacts, the way he does to certain things through the campaign. You kind of build up some hate for the main antagonist and the different characters that pop up. And I really do think they've really fleshed it out. I do not think that it's going to be one of those things where, like, people are talking about the story for months after this is over. But in the moment, as you're playing through it, you do have a different level of engagement to where, like, I can't tell you the main antagonist from Eternal. I can tell you the main antagonist from the Dark Ages, and not just because it's the most recent thing I played. Like, this will be something where people can say, hey, I remember when we fought this guy. So that's the way that I see it. I think it does much better vehicle of delivery. It's a much better vehicle of gameplay delivery than 2016 or Eternal were. I like the Dark Ages story.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty much exactly the same as Sam. I think it was one of those things where, like you said, Kev, in the marketing and stuff, they putting a bigger emphasis on story. And I'm like, before I jumped in, I was like, oh, I'm not sure that's the right move to make for a Doom game. I'm not sure that's quite what I'm going to Doom for. And whilst I think that the story isn't, as Sam said, anything to write home about, it doesn't really do anything particularly new. It is, I think, leagues above what we've gotten from any other Doom game. Certainly the past two, the modern Dooms. And I think that outside of a few creative choices they made with the story, which obviously I'm not going to talk about, I actually think it was like a resounding success. I think it enhanced the game pretty considerably. It gave more justification and reasoning for where you were and what you were doing in each of the chapters. There felt like more of an arc, not just for like the Slayer and the surrounding characters, but just the story overall. I think it felt like it had a better sense of progression, and building up momentum. Whereas, especially, I think, not that I can remember super well, but Eternal and Doom 2016 kind of just felt like levels to me, with not really any connective tissue between them. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of what you're going to Doom for again. But I think that the way that they've done story here, where they kind of know that inherently it's going to be a little bit sort of schlocky and campy at points, inherently a little bit crazy just because of how over the top the Slayer is, and therefore the way that the world has to be around him. I think it's really good. I don't know how they go forward from here necessarily, obviously, because this serves as a prequel to both of the modern Doom games. So I'm not really sure what their next step is. And to be fair, I haven't played the Eternal DLC, so I don't quite know where that landed. But I'm interested to see if this is their first real stab at like a meaningful story for Doom. I think that it's a very, very strong foundation.
Awesome. That's actually makes me excited, because I would love to be invested, because I'm going to Doom for the gameplay. That is always number one for me. But to know there is something that I can latch onto and like sit through some good cutscenes, have a narrative, and feel more invested, as opposed to I'm just gonna hit the B button because I don't really care what this person's saying. That is a big plus for me. So that's great to hear. I can't wait for the next one where Doom Guy Junior will show up, and him and Doom Slayer could go on a quest of some sort.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on for Doom the Dark Ages before we wrap up this part of the show?
Whenever you boot it up for the first time, do what I did and go refill your beverage for roughly 5 minutes and just like bask in that stuff, because the main menu music, I mean, you expect really good music. And I don't think that like any of the known names, the known quantities from previous Doom soundtracks are deeply involved here. I haven't looked into it that deeply. I know like Mick Gordon is no longer like doing the stuff. But like it's really well done. It's very, very good. I believe that I was Googling it earlier today, but it's like a brother duo, I believe, that also worked on Borderlands, I think. And so they've kind of like tapped a smaller name, if I remember correctly. But it's just really good. Like it's just there's like the classic, heavy metal riffs that you get in there. So I really enjoyed that. So the music is once again stand out. I will have it on repeat in the gym along with the new Grand Theft Auto trailer music, and that's just going to be my life for the next couple of weeks.
And the Expedition 33 soundtrack.
Of course, that's been all over my TikTok. So that's it's going to be there.
It's going to be annoying to sort of not end on a negative, but just end on another sort of minor gripe that I noted that is sort of worthy of pointing out. And I don't know how Sam feels about it. I do feel that some of the visual designs for the demons aren't the best. I think that a number of them are really good. But there were some deviations. So let's say like the Mancubus. The Mancubus looks practically identical across all of the games. But then they've, at least to me, changed something like the Cacodemon and the Revenant to be, I mean, the Cacodemon, I guess you can kind of tell because it's a floating brain thing with an eye, but it's, it's not the red classic iconic thing anymore. And the Revenant, which, not only from Doom 2016 but Eternal. I mean, you've got the statue, Sam.
Yeah, I've got it. I was going to say it's right there.
It's that in itself is also iconic now, and the Revenant in particular has changed quite drastically to the point where if you aren't paying attention, I almost feel like you might get through a decent chunk of the game without realizing that that's this game's version of a Revenant. And again, that's not really like a bad thing. I'm nitpicking here, but it's just something that occurred to me where they obviously wanted to deviate because it's set in a different time period, but some demon designs are practically identical. and others deviate pretty heavily. And again, I would love to know what the thought process was behind that. Because if it was a general sweep across the board where everything looked really different, I think that's like understandable. But the most iconic ones seems to have got the biggest changes to me, which is interesting in and of itself. Not that that changes gameplay in any meaningful way. It doesn't detract from the experience, but it's just odd and worthy of note.
Grip his controller a little harder.
No, I would agree. I think that'll be something that like the hardcore Super Doom guys do call out.
Yeah, you know it's going to happen.
Oh yeah, and I don't think that it bothers me to a deep degree because like again, I was so focused on the gameplay. It's not something that really stood out to me, and I think that for me, I would rather have varied enemy types than like going with tropes of these like imps with knight armor on and like, you know, just the like medieval generalizations they could have made, and then it's just like bad character design. So like I'm cool with where they landed with it, but I completely agree that there's like some iconography there that I think was kind of left on the cutting room floor, especially with you know, like you said, some of the cacodemons and stuff like that could have been done a little bit more directly, but nothing that I kind of like thought of or focused on throughout my gameplay.
Sure.
All right. Well, that will wrap us up for the Doom the Dark Ages review segment. Both of these gentlemen recommend it. I don't know if we mentioned it. Codes were provided to both of them. So I like to throw a disclaimer in there, and I don't know if you guys had requirements to do that. Want to make sure we get that in there.
Yeah, as always.
Yes.
Believe it or not, I did not break into Xbox and or Bethesda and steal a copy of the game, even though I've got a copy sitting over there. I did not do that. So
are you sure?
I'm positive.
I did.
All right.
I did not.
Well, let's go to story number 2 for the rest of this episode, and that is Gears of War related. Give me 1 second. Feel like this is the more appropriate background now.
Whoa!
I feel at home.
Alexa, make the office blue.
Yo, I watched the short when you did that. I was like, that's what he just telling me about. That's what the soldering is for, baby.
That's what the shout out to Govey. No Philips Hue in this household. We go with the cheap Chinese stuff. Anyways, continue.
For audio listeners, I switched to our No Limits background, our PlayStation show, because Xbox has announced Gears of War Reloaded, a remastered version of Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Where did my text go? You guys don't have prompters set up here. What's going on? All right. Gears of War Ultimate Edition.
You think we're organized?
Yeah. Right. This is in itself a remaster of the original 360 game, and Gears of War Reloaded will be coming August 26, 2025. It'll feature 4K 60 FPS in the campaign mode, along with a 120 FPS support for multiplayer, which also has full crossplay and cross progression. The game will release for Xbox Series consoles, Xbox PC, weird way to name that, Steam, and PlayStation 5, marking the latest major Xbox franchise to jump over to PlayStation. The game will be available via Xbox Game Pass, and if you already own the Ultimate Edition, you will get the upgrade for free. Everyone else will be able to get the game for $40. JamPackSam, Xbox is dead. We're a PlayStation show now. You know, how can we ever cope with Gears of War going to PlayStation?
We'll find a way. You know, it's almost like the writing's been on the wall, and they've just been going from like the least offensive Xbox variant to eventually Halo will land on PlayStation, and then, you know, I'm gonna milk a YouTube short and keep on with my life. But yeah, I mean, this is something that for me is exciting because people that have never been able to experience Gears are going to be able to go back and experience the best version of Gears that has ever existed. Presumably, you know, if they land the expectation of a remake, of a remaster, or whatever you want to call the new Reloaded edition. But for me as well, I think this is exciting for Gears as an IP, because now you can talk about Gears the same way you talk about Doom, where like we just had a 45-minute conversation on Doom the Dark Ages, and platforms weren't mentioned at all, other than what are you playing on? Sam's playing on PlayStation, I'm on Xbox, and we both talked about the same game. That's what I'm looking forward to for Gears and eventually Halo, to where we can take the console warring out of the conversation and focus entirely on the quality of the product, for better or for worse. So that's where I'm at with it. No surprises, but glad that we're finally like ripping this Band-Aid off and getting on with the show.
Yeah, and I'll throw it over to Sam Heaney a sec. I do think something you said there, now we've had Forza, we've had Gears. Halo is the last of the three big Xbox franchises yet to make its way over, undoubtedly coming in the very near future. I was a little surprised that this wasn't the rumored Marcus Phoenix collection that everyone has been telling me existed for the last 4 years. Do I think it makes a lot of sense? I do. I milk the PlayStation audience for all they're worth, right? Like that has to be the mindset here. And I see people being like, "Oh, bring the Master Chief collection over," and I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't know if that's gonna be the case. Like, I can totally see a world where they bring Master Chief collection over. I can see a world where they bring the rest of the Gears games over as well, like one at a time, $40 or whatever each. Halo, I can see here's maybe Halo 1 remake if that exists, or Halo 1 anniversary, Halo 2 anniversary, like piecemeal these things together for $40 a piece, make a bunch of money. Like I can totally see Xbox doing that because they know like, hey, this is still a novel thing. People will show up for this. It's a lower price point. So I wonder if that's their strategy with these ports.
Yeah. Like so I mean, yeah, like you say, this was going to happen. It wasn't necessarily going to happen like November of last year, but since I think the top of the year, it sort of the signals have been blaring brighter and brighter. I think you're completely right that we won't be getting Master Chief Collection. I'd be stunned if they released Master Chief Collection on PS5. No doubt it would sell like hotcakes for sure, regardless. But you see what they're doing right now with, Forza and Indiana Jones, Call of Duty, Minecraft. They're all sitting very comfortably for several weeks at a time on the very top of the PlayStation charts, and that is a big win for Microsoft. Obviously, there's massive debate about whether it's a win for Xbox, and I think that by releasing these games one at a time, you're not only getting more money, but you're also getting more. You're taking up more of the airways more frequently. Every single release can be a megaton drop that gets a lot of PR, a lot of articles, a lot of engagement, a lot of excitement, and a lot of rage baiting. Let's be honest, that's not going to stop. I don't think, regardless of if every Xbox game comes across, every one that gets announced is going to draw up a little bit of, if only this was exclusive. So yeah, I mean, I'm in complete alignment with Sam in the sense that, I said in Discord, I've played through the first two Gears games anyway, but I'll still pick this up when it releases, and I think that the elephant in the room is that this probably does signal that if it's not day and date, something like E-Day is going to be coming in short succession to PS5. And if you want to introduce a new fan base to this series, you kind of need to lay the seeds first. So this is one of those things that you've got to do. So if that it means a Halo remake as well, if that means we get the old Fables prior to the new Fable, I mean, I feel like that's less important because I don't think that there's going to be continuity. But yeah, it is what it is, and I know that all of us on all sides have been saying that for a while now. But it's we're cresting the hill now where there isn't really that much left in terms of these port announcements of old stuff, and then they'll just set the expectation that everything going forwards, or pretty much everything, will just be de facto multi-platform at some point, and people can hopefully get on with their days.
Do JamPackSam, we think an E-Day is day and date? Because I'm leaning that way at the moment. This seems very much to me like get the first one out. E-Day's a prequel. Like they could honestly have E-Day ready to go before 2 and 3 come over because it's
I
not
would,
necessary.
yeah, I mean, I would hope that at this point, I just at this point you have now shifted the narrative to where you say, hey, we're going multi-plat. We're still going to do Game Pass. We've still got, you know, the PC elements as well. If you want to get a good deal, you can subscribe. But like we're doing this. You get Sea of Thieves, you've got Forza, you've got Gears now coming over. Like we're doing this. I think it would be so strange to then pull a Death Stranding 2 and be like, yeah, but you got to wait for a little while. Now we're going back exclusive for a hot minute. And I also think that going all in on third party and just making it a multi-platform release across the board from this point forward makes you look like the good guy in the gaming community once again. Like now there's a disparity between, okay, when Spider-Man 3 drops or the next, you know, a Venom game or whatever comes out, now you've got to like, all right, so now PlayStation, now I've got to go buy a PlayStation, or I'm locked in over here. I can't play it on PC until whenever. Like it's just, it creates this level of like Xbox lets you play anywhere. I don't care where you're playing. And I think that that positions them well going into this next generation where it is less about where you're playing and more about what you're playing, whether it's on a handheld or a PC or an Xbox console or a PlayStation or a Switch 2 or whatever you have. I think they should continue leaning into that. So E-Day, I would hope, would be day and date. I think my question going back to the Halo Master Chief Collection stuff is like, where do you separate legacy Xbox from new Xbox, right? Because I feel like putting out the Master Chief Collection, like you said, would print money, but I also feel like that's going to be perceived as milking something that people are immediately going to call a dead franchise online. And they're like, oh, this is the last dying breath of Halo. They're going to milk the nostalgia train for all it's got and then move on. Or do you say, hey, we're very confident in the future of Halo. This is the remake of the original game built from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5, coming out everything on whenever 2026, 2027. And I think that's a powerful return for what Halo is now going to be from this point forward. And everything else was the beginning of Xbox. This is the beginning of Halo from here on. That's what I would rather them do. I don't really even think that there is a point in, unless it's already underway and was very easy, porting Halo Infinite to PlayStation, because that engine is cobbled together from 20 years of proprietary Xbox tech. So like, how about you don't, and then just build the next thing for a multi-platform audience. That's what I would hope they do with it, because I don't think, much like Doom Eternal or Doom the Dark Ages not having a multiplayer mode, like you're going to drop Halo Infinite in the year of our Lord 2025 on a PlayStation with Call of Duty declining in player count and expect that to be worth your while. I don't see it. So that's where my head's at. Rip off the Band-Aid, go for it, do it all.
I certainly lean more towards they're gonna do a Halo 1 remake, as opposed to the Master Chief Collection. Because I mean, not to say the Master Chief Collection won't go over if or pieces of it, like Halo 2 Anniversary, I think still holds up just fine if they get the remake out and then want like, hey, here's some more Halo if you want to continue the story. Like, I think the newer games can maybe you don't bring the multiplayer over, make it a smaller package. Like, hey, if you want the story component, $30-$40, or I don't know, 40 might be a bit much, but throw those things over. Because I get what you're saying about milking a dead franchise, even though I don't think Halo is quite a dead franchise.
No,
I think it's a
that's just what's going to be on Twitter.
Yeah, I think it's a well, to be fair, every Xbox IP is a dead franchise on Twitter until it comes to other platforms, and then suddenly everyone's so excited for it. Really interesting. So I'm really, yeah, I don't know where they go from here. I do wonder if there is that cutoff point where, hey, these games are too old. We don't need to bring these over. Such as you were saying, Sam, Fable 2, Fable 3. Like, I don't even think those are on PC. I can't see them being, let's bring these Xbox 360 games over. Like, that seems a bit too far for me. But like Xbox One games, if they were well received, like, I don't think you guys are getting Rise Son of Rome, even though you deserve it. Even though you deserve it. All right. It's a good game. So I'm interested to know where they go from there. One thing I will point out, as you were mentioned, the whole Xbox wants everyone to play anywhere. Really interesting 2 points here. They call it Xbox PC, which I have not seen in a press release before, right? Like, it normally just PC or PC Game Pass or something like that. Wonder if that's them getting the verbiage out there as they move towards this universal library or this handheld that got leaked that we saw. They want people to start associating Xbox PC. The other point, no Switch 2. Really surprised about the lack of Switch 2 announcements from Microsoft so far. I really thought we would get a wave of games coming at near around launch in this window, and so far they're completely absent.
I wonder how much of that is a Nintendo not wanting to share their proprietary tech for development before the announcement. And they're now like, hey, this is coming. Okay, now you can develop. And then it'll be like a Doom Eternal situation where Doom Eternal came out on the Switch 6 months after it came out on the Xbox and PlayStation and PC. So maybe there's like a time delay on that. But I agree. It's odd to not see stuff like Sea of Thieves coming to Nintendo Switch 2. That feels like an easy win at this point.
Yeah. And I think like it will be interesting to be a fly on the wall. I think there could also be an element of, like what Sam was sort of suggesting, not wanting to give the tech to them and hold out as long as possible, because then, well, let's be honest, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, Nintendo can withhold dev kits for Switch 2 from Xbox for a year and a half, and as soon as those floodgates open and Nintendo allows them to have them, Xbox will still eat them up, because the multi-platform push, it allows them to get so much more money. So it doesn't matter when the dev kits get there. I think that there will come a time where there is a flood of Xbox games onto Switch 2. Maybe they just, I was about to say they don't need it for launch, but they also kind of might have to, because they don't really have anything major first party at launch outside of Mario Kart. Yeah, it's odd. I think
really just looking to chainsaw some noobs, to be honest.
Yeah, that is what the Switch 2 audience are looking for above all else. They want to just Rainbow Road, and then just bounce off, cut a guy in half with a chainsaw. That's
enough Mario Kart. I'm
demographic.
going to Gears of War.
You grab one Joy-Con in each hand, and then you just
Yo,
go
that
down.
would be dope.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than the wheelchair basketball game. Like, get your
Oh,
Joy-Cons
Christ.
out and then do the Lancer thing. I feel like that's a much better utilization of the technology.
I will mention this every time it comes up, but the fact that Nintendo clarified that they're not disabled, they're just in wheelchairs, kills me. That makes it so much worse to me. You're telling me they're not handicapped and they're mimicking people being handicapped to play the basketball game. Okay,
I just want to know who was like, you know what we should do? This. They were just like in a boardroom doing that. It's just very odd.
Kobe. All right. All right, so Gears of War Reloaded coming August 26th. Look forward to that. I will get the free upgrade because I already own the Ultimate Edition. So
I have Game Pass, so.
You don't have the Ultimate Edition? That surprises me.
I mean, I'm sure it's in my library. I'm sure I've gotten it along the way through the years, but that was like a 2015 pickup, I'm sure.
It was. Yeah, so ages ago. All right, well, let's go to our next story. Big one. GTA 6 has been delayed. What should be a surprise to absolutely no one, Rockstar has screwed the Project XTalk fantasy critic team and every single one of my solo leagues by delaying GTA 6 out of its fall 2025 release window. The game will reportedly now release on May 26, 2026. And I say reportedly because, maybe they delay it again. That's kind of their MO. They delayed Red Dead like 3 times. They did release a new trailer, as some people have seen, and by some I mean like 500 million people. JamPackSam, how are we feeling? Are you surprised about GTA 6's delay?
I don't know that I'm not surprised. I don't think it's a shocker, but I also assumed that Rockstar would be more buttoned up at this point in the game. And it's been so long since we've gotten it. I think it's like 8 years of full production or something like that. That has been the word on the street. Could be more. But I'm not surprised, and I think that it's perfectly fine. We've got a packed year now. Everybody can actually talk about what they're going to be releasing. Congratulations to both Mind's Eye for releasing almost an entire year away from Grand Theft Auto, and then also Mafia: The Old Country getting ahead of Grand Theft Auto to where those will now be gone and forgotten, and GTA can be the thing that is up and running. I also want to, for the people that are this deep in this podcast, one of my lessons that I've learned from making short form videos that have been popular over the years is that whatever you do, never actually mention a release date on video, because then your video is always relevant when it gets served up anytime there's news. So if I said, 2025 when I was talking about Grand Theft Auto before, then it would be wrong. I never said that, so now it's not wrong. That's a tidbit that I've picked up, and to your point, it could not even come out on May 26, 2026. That could be a June game, and then here everybody is talking about release dates. So never put those dates in your videos, kids. But yeah, not shocking, not disappointing, really. The trailer looks sick. I'm very excited. Yeah, it's cool.
That's good advice. Totally. I totally didn't make a bunch of shorts and have release dates in them throughout the last few weeks. So, listen, man, I'm new to the shorts game. Okay. All right. And I'm not
you learn a lot over the year. I was wrong a whole lot before I stopped doing that. So I feel you.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not wrong if you're vague enough. That's the short form game.
GTA 6 is coming out. And
there's an account on Threads that always posts very vague video game statements. Like Mario Kart will have karts in it, or like GTA 6 is going to cost money, and then it always gets like 5,000 likes on it. So that's kind of the way that I go about my day.
Sam Heaney, the man who didn't have the balls to counterpick me counterpick us in Fantasy Critic. How are we
mainly
feeling
you,
about?
But
mainly, well, listen, you told me to pick GTA 6. All right?
I was confident. I don't know what to tell you.
That was our number one pick. Sam Heaney, how are we feeling?
Yeah, I mean, not surprised about the delay, but also am surprised about the delay. I was kind of just under the impression that it had been quiet for so long, and Rockstar had gone through a couple of quarterly reports, and nothing had seemingly shifted. But in classic Rockstar fashion, they delay, and that immediately gets forgotten because everybody knows it's going to be a behemoth and worth the wait regardless. The trailer looked great. I'm not a GTA guy.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm obviously very, very impressed with the visuals. I'm sure that, it will be unmatched, particularly in the console space. So that'll be a touchstone moment regardless. But I'm concerned, Kev, because if it's trying to go, very simmy like Red Dead Redemption 2 did, that's a red flag for me. I don't want to be pressing buttons to open every cabinet and grab all the cans out.
Was it Red Dead 2 like 95 on Open Critic or something?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Surprising that many people can be wrong, but it is what it is. The really exciting thing though, Kev, let's be honest, is that we now know that Horizon 3 is coming out around that time. Within that week. So
I think May 24th sounds like a great day for Horizon 3. Yeah.
Can't
finish that trilogy in style, baby.
Well, you got to keep it consistent, haven't you?
Listen, it's either they release it May 24th or they release it when the next Zelda game's coming out, or or Elden Ring 2,
Yeah.
It is one of those things. I can't believe the numbers I'm seeing. I knew GTA would be huge. The reception to a trailer, though, has absolutely floored me, and I'm very, very prepared for this game to come in at like $100 for the base edition. With other games going up to 80, I'm like, GTA can do whatever they want. People are just gonna spend the money.
I still think it'll be 80. I think 80 is probably where this will land. I think you'll see an announcement where they're like, hey, we are increasing the price of NBA and our core franchises, and that includes GTA. I think that'll be the move in my opinion. I know they said they weren't, but yeah, okay, sure, bud.
Yeah. Man.
But isn't it interesting that Take-Two, I mean, I know they are vastly different games in terms of scope and budget and stuff, but that Take-Two just announced for Mafia that it costs 50.
That is very interesting. I just saw that. I was actually reading up on that over on the other screen, and I think that there's a whole conversation that could be had about like the pricing structure of like there's the marathon conversation, and then there's stuff like Mafia, and then I forget what other game was announced, and it's going to be $50. There's another big one that popped up, but stuff like Split Fiction, you know, as well, where it's just like the new norm is that it seems like there's a lot more positivity and a lot more support for games that are less. So are you going to make more money from making a game less by making it less and selling more, having more mind share, having more conversation? Grand Theft Auto doesn't have to worry about that, though. They're not. You don't have to worry about like, you know, undercutting. But I do think Mafia is a very interesting case study. And I wonder how much that is like looking at the game and saying we can't charge 70 to 80 for this. It needs to be 50. If it's a 25 hour, I don't know if they've said how long it is, but like a 25-hour linear game, you know. But in the same breath, could you say that about Doom, where it's like we just talked about 10 to 12 hours to finish a campaign, you're rolling credits in 35, like 100%ing it roughly? Is that worth 70, 80 bucks? TBD.
I did see Mafia is very linear, like they don't have an open world section in the new Mafia game, which I also wonder like how, if the price is kind of a reaction to how poorly Mafia 3 was received by critics. Kind of, hey, we don't think Mafia might be the strongest IP right now. Let's get people in at a cheaper price point, get that buzz going, because hopefully they have a good game here with the old. I mean, it look from the trailers like it's not my type of game. It looks like a high quality product.
It looks very good, yeah.
So, but as we've all said, GTA doesn't need anything; they can do whatever they want. All right, let's go to the final story for the day and then get on out of here. It's just our Game Pass update for the first half of May. So available right now, you can play Dredge for cloud, PC, and Xbox Series consoles. You can also play Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 for cloud, console, and PC. You can play Dungeons of Hinterberg on the standard tier now. You can play Flintlock, Siege of Dawn on the standard tier now. You can also play Metal Slug Tactics on the standard tier. You also have Revenge of the Savage Planet for cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S if you're at the Ultimate or PC tier. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutants Unleashed for cloud, console, PC at every tier. May 13th, you get Warhammer Vermintide 2 for cloud and console at every tier, except PC. Strange. May 15th, you also get Doom the Dark Ages for cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S at the Ultimate and PC tier. May 16th, you get Calubra and the Souls of Limbo, cloud and console and PC at the Ultimate PC tier. May 20th, you get Firefighting Simulator, The Squad for every tier. Ridiculous. You also get Police Simulator Patrol Officers for cloud, console, and PC. What the hell are we doing here? All right, enough with the simulator. We had Crime Scene Simulator last month. Guys, nothing of here is as interest of me except Doom. I genuinely do not care about any of these games.
I'm interested in Dredge, but it's like coming at a point where I have so many other things to play. And I mean, that's coming from a place of privilege of getting review copies for Doom. And I've got to go back to Expedition 33. And then I want to go back and continue playing other things. I think my big takeaway from this Game Pass drop is that I really just hate this tier system they've created of like, this is now coming to tier 1, but these are coming to tier 3. And then there's like some PC stuff over here. And this one you've already had for a while, but it's kind of in the graphic. I just hate the way they've done it. It's just not great.
I've been saying that for almost a year now when they put out these stupid graphics.
Just convoluted. It's just very convoluted.
It's really fun to read every 2 weeks too. Like definitely not annoying at all to try to like go through that on a podcast.
I just remember like back whenever I first joined the show, it was like every time there was a Game Pass graphic, it was like the PlayStation graphics that we have now where it's like, oh, here's all the free games I'm getting. And now it's like, okay, let me look through the fine print and figure out what I already don't have, and then I can kind of like judge it based on that. And then you've got filler occasionally where it's just like,
it confuses people too, because people will be like, I thought we already had that, and then you have to explain, well, you did, but like standard people, like, who's at the standard tier? Who are you that are at the standard tier? I want to know.
Needs to play online. They
You could
probably
go to
don't even look at these
tier.
graphics. They
You
don't
go
even
to
look
tier
at these.
3.
They don't even look at this. This is just there.
Sam Heaney, not a Game Pass subscriber, I believe. So this doesn't appeal to you at all, I imagine.
I mean, Dredge is fantastic. So I'm glad that Sam is interested, but it's definitely something that I think is unfortunately a back burner compared to what you've currently got on the roster. So that is the way with these things. But if you do find the time, I think Dredge is fantastic. So highly recommend if people do have free time this month to check out Dredge.
Yeah, but like play Expedition 33 first and play Doom and maybe Oblivion, which I still haven't even touched. So maybe
that's number 3 on my list. Of things
maybe play Oblivion, and then I'm sure something else is coming out soon. So
Tony Hawk July for
Tony
me.
Hawk's in July. Yeah,
the next thing. Yeah. I'm never playing Dredge. It's just not going to happen.
I tried.
I'm not going to get to it. There's no way. Absolutely not.
On retrospect, nah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like, all right, so I've got all of Oblivion to play. I need to finish Expedition 33. Then I'm going to definitely 100% Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. By that time, it's August. So maybe Dredge in August. I have no idea. Something else will come.
Wu Chang Fallen Feathers is July too. So
yeah, so there's never going to be able to get back to that.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, guys, that will do it for this show. I want to thank you both for joining me as always. JamPackSam, you want to let everyone know where they can find you, my friend?
JamPackSam.com. It's where all my stuff is. I've got cool things coming. Obviously, the full review is at this point out now for Doom the Dark Ages. I have a collector's edition unboxing. Bethesda sent me the collector's edition, so I have a 12-inch statue to unbox and check out. So that's coming over the weekend, and yeah, lots of gaming news, Mafia stuff to talk about, and who knows, GTA trailer 3 next Tuesday, maybe. I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Year from now, probably. But
you know what you should do? Schedule a meeting, and then I'm sure something good will drop.
Right? I just need to drive to work and schedule a 9 a.m. meeting, and then immediately it's going to be ready.
What could they announce? This Xbox is buying someone. Yeah, that'll work.
PlayStation.
No.
Buying PlayStation.
And now everything is an Xbox. Gotcha. Sam Heaney, thank you for joining us again, my friend. Always
Anytime.
love chatting with you. I know we just did our Expedition 33 spoiler cast. People seem to be enjoying that. Gotten some really good feedback. If you finished the game, go check that out. If not, it'll be on the channel waiting for you. We can let everyone know where they can find you.
Of course, yeah, anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney, which is HEANEY.
Awesome. You can find me at the Muffin Mon. It's a 1-7I-7A. Follow us at Save the Game Media over on Blue Sky to stay up to date with all of our latest content. Like so many of you, we got added to some independent creator list or something, and every time I go over there, new followers. So appreciate all the new follows. Hope you're liking what you see here. But we'll be back next Thursday with another podcast. So until then, goodbye.
See you.